project as well to do. So by doing those assignments and projects, you will be hopefully be able to work with Android Studio and get the knowledge regarding how to do any kind of development using Android Studio. So I think that is the most important thing, understanding how you can maybe adjust already existing apps, and then you can build your own thing. Also, you can build an app from scratch as well. So in order for I think for you to get better at this, you need to keep on creating projects and facing troubles and facing errors and knowing how to resolve those things. So I think that experience is what matters for this mobile app development. So I will give you some projects and assignments that we covered using Android Studio. And in the exam, you will be able to write answers as in regular other exams. And you don't need any internet, or it's not open book, it's a closed book. And you have to be ready with the knowledge or theory knowledge that we have covered during the sessions. Also, you can look at the quizzes that we have done. You can look at the quizzes we have done and any other theory that we have covered so far during the lectures. So all those things will be considered in the exam. Other things will be covered through the assignments and projects. So the deadlines will be defined for the assignments, and I will define them in the LMS. So I will give you some sufficient time. So if you have any queries, or if you face any problems, if you have any concerns, you can email me to my email. So you can email into my email, so you can get to you can get some you can get your problem resolved and can get an answer. So that is how that will go. So all the theory that we have covered will be tested during the exam. So I think so far we have covered some theory. So the theory that we have covered are like under different sections. So we have, I think I will need to so we have learned about how we can design the layout and design the UI of the app. So we can use different layout techniques, and then we can use different methods to adjust the element sizes based on different screen sizes, so on. So we learned about layouts, how we can design the layout, and those things are some things that we have covered. So layout designs, and then Kotlin based Kotlin algorithm designs, Kotlin based logic design. Okay, so we have these done. So Kotlin based algorithm logic design. Then we discussed about different intents, and we discussed that intents are used to move from one screen of the app to another screen of the app. So we can define the intents in either implicit intents or explicit intents. So implicit intents and explicit intents can be used for different tasks. Also, both can be used as well. both can be used in one app as well. So all those features can be added into the application by defining the intents in the standard manner, and by feeding the necessary input data into this intents. So the intent commands or syntaxes will be kind of different for the implicit one and the explicit one. So for the implicit one, we can give some, data and parameters that are available in the activity itself. For the explicit one, we have to give the URL, the uh, uh, URL of the uh, website that we are trying to achieve and uh, access, and so on. So based on the different type of intent, uh, we have to give different data to the intents. So so we discussed about the implicit and explicit intent types. So implicit intent type actually uses this uh, so implicit actually can allow us to go to extra, URL, another, to another interface, and explicit intents allow us to go and navigate through its own activity. So navigate through the own activity, or within the same activity, you can, so within the same application, you can go to different activities. So within the same application, you can go through uh, different activities using explicit intents, and you can go to a new interface or a new platform using explicit the implicit intent type. We can go to new interfaces and new applications that are different from the current application. So implicit, explicit intents we discussed. And also both these types of intents can be implemented in the same application as well. So both implicit, explicit can also be included in the same application. So there are many examples of such applications, right? So when we have an application that allow us to go to different screens in the application itself, and also allow us to go to the internet, access the internet, and search the internet, such kind of application have both these intent types. Then we also discussed about the activity life cycle. And while we were at the intents, we discussed about the recycler view. Recycler view, the kind of the scrollable activity, scrollable views. So the activity that can be scrollable, we call as recycler views. And the design of this kind of recycler view also we discussed extensively. So the important parameters, so the important components of that recycler view also we discussed up to some extent using examples. So so you might need to know like how to develop a recycler view, how to create a recycler view step by step. If you're asked to explain how you can develop a recycler view, maybe you can give some, a step by step answer, like what is the first thing to do, what is the second thing to do, third thing to do, likewise. You don't have to write codes, but you can explain how it can be done step by step, then it would be enough. So that would be regarding that. And also we discussed about how we can use binding to access resources, access resource files and resources easily without calling the IDs every time. So binding is another kind of technique that is used to access resource files efficiently without much delay and without much complexity. So um, apart from that, we also discussed about the activity life cycle. Activity life cycle. So the activity life cycle, we discussed about different phases that a certain activity undergoes once that activity has initialized, and then you know, uh, it interacts with the user, and if the user is not actively using the application, then what happens to the life cycle, or what happens to the activity is given by this life cycle. So those things are also needed for um, for cases where you are designing an application and you want to implement a certain activity under a certain stage in the activity life cycle. So when you are implementing, for example, banking apps or some sensitive apps, then you have to uh, ensure that you don't expose the data that you are entering in a certain stage of the activity into another stage of the activity. So we have to ensure the data is secure in certain stage of the life cycle. So you need to know like in what life cycle you will be including the sensitive data, and you'll be calling that data to be entered. So that knowledge of activity life cycle enable you to build these kind of sensitive apps. So activity lifecycle is something that we discussed in the last class. So um, also we discussed about the Firebase and how Firebase is used to upload data from this app to the backend server without any difficulty. So Firebase is a database that stores the data um, to a backend server, and the backend server will do the data management, data storage, and data, uh, analytics uh, kind of related operations on its own. So those services are provided by the uh, Firebase organization. So they will provide the services for the customer as a service, and if if the user has a lot of customers, Firebase will like ask you to pay. Otherwise, Firebase will provide that service for free. So there are other things also like Firestore. I mean, there's something called Fire. I mean, there are many services that come with Firebase. So Firebase has many services included in it, not only uploading the data to a certain database, but more than that, it allows us to analyze the data and then secure the data and then authenticate users to access the data. So likewise, different services are provided by the Firebase. So one of the services is Firestore, which is another, example of uploading data to the database and, like managing the data very efficiently using the um, cloud database, which is available uh, to the user or the manager who's managing the database and the account related to that. So the Firebase allow us to manage data efficiently and also like manage and control the data that is uploaded in the database. So in all these situations, security of the data is essential. So the security is also provided by this Firebase services. So security and privacy of the data is also provided uh, to the data, and the data can be stored as either private files or public files. So depending on the security required for the data, you can publish the data as either private data or a public data. So uh, so some of those things are related to Firebase. So these are related to Firebase. So we will discuss about the Firebase and its applications today in detail as well. So when we deploy these services, we 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 uh, we have to connect our application with the Firebase console. So we have to connect with the Firebase console that is available. So we can create our own projects there. So we can create our projects there. We can um, uh, we can see the data that we have uploaded, can control the updated data there, and uh, by um, by enabling this connection and by enabling all the necessary you know configurations, we can have continuous connection between the application and this Firebase database. So in the Android Studio, uh, so in the Android Studio, we have to use the um, different features or the steps that are given, and we need to follow those steps to enable the Firebase and Firebase services available. So in the tools, if you go to Firebase, there are different types of services that the Firebase produces. So these are some of the services that Firebase uh, gives us. So analytics of the data, authentication of the data. So authentication of the data we have discussed under Google sign-in authentication. So authentication can be done using Google, Facebook, any other custom authentication system. So not only Google and Facebook, we also can allow other types of authentication methods through Twitter or any other mediums. So you can allow those things by following the steps in these given in this small tab. So you can follow these steps. You can install and do the necessary configurations, initial configurations to connect with the project, and you can connect your app with the project. So once you have connected, uh, you need to like add the necessary commands in your code to get the connectivity of the data to your application. So that part is also important. So basically, talking about the different services. So the different services can be seen like this. So there are many services. So some other services can be taken as real-time database, right? So we can have a real-time database, uh, and and we can upload the data in real time to the database using using this application. So application, once we enter some data, once the user enters some data to the application, that data will be updated in real time to the application. So that also can be seen actually. So from the Firebase console, we can actually see that. Firebase console, we can see that. So uh, we can see the data getting uploaded. So Cloud Firestore is also um, another, a database, and this one will store and sync your data with the flexible and scalable NoSQL database. So we will discuss about those as well. So we will discuss about those as well. Basically, these are some of the services that you can find with Firebase. The cloud storage is also another application. So you can store the data in this cloud storage. So whenever you want to enable these services, you can actually go through these steps that are available, that are given in there, and you can enable the different, settings, and you can include the different dependencies, which are basically like the libraries inside your application. Once all these libraries are set up, then you can actually call those libraries in your code, and you can uh, access these services, real-time database and the cloud storage and so on. So those libraries can be used to access those databases and those services. So these there are many services that are available with the Firebase. So some of these, we are basically going to discuss only about some of these services. So, any questions? Do you have any questions? If you have, please let me know right now. I think I will be, discussing about Firebase today mainly. And also about fragments. So I will discuss those two sections today, and then I will wind up the session today. And I will discuss about the implementation of the applications in the Friday class. So in the Friday class, so sometimes the Friday class will be an online class. If it is online, I will let you know. Okay. I will send you a message and I will let you know whether it's online or not. Okay, so if it is online, by tomorrow itself, I will inform you. Okay, so I hope you will understand. So, um, if you prefer, I can do interactive also. Sometimes I will be, um, late to come to the uh, uh, lecture session on that day, on Friday. So if you have any questions that you want to talk to me in person, I will be available in the office where I work. So near the senior lecturer's room, you can ask, and then you can come and meet me, and then you can get your problems related to the module resolved, and you can ask your questions that you have. So I would prefer that. So during Friday, during the lecture hours, I might be doing this online mode if I get late or something related. But but I will be there in the campus in the evening. So I will be there in the evening. So you can come and meet me in person. Um, so there's one question. Yes, I will provide you a model paper. I will provide you a model paper. So I think I will provide it as soon as possible. So I think by this week your semester content is over. So if there's anything that I want to provide you, I will provide you via LMS. So in the LMS, I will give you the model paper. Also, I will send you a message once I do that. Also, do you have any I mean, through the LMS, I will send you a message. So check the LMS messages. Apart from that, I don't have any method of communicating the details with you. So if you have any questions, you just let me know, maybe through an email, and you can contact me. So I will provide you a model paper. So regarding that model paper also, I will like to say that um, the whatever the exam will be of 3 hours, and therefore it will constitute of both like MCQ questions and essay questions. So there will be some MCQ questions and essay questions. So those will be uh, based on uh, based on the time that is allocated. So 3 hours. So I will be basically asking you to select some essay questions, and maybe do the essay questions, and also do the MCQ questions. So I will provide you a model paper in the LMS. Okay. Um, so I will provide you a model paper in the LMS uh, by as early as possible, by this week end or weekend. By this weekend, I will provide that. With regard to the so if you have other questions, I mean, you can send me in the chat the message. You can message. So with regard to what we are discussing now, we are going to discuss regarding the Firebase console and Firebase in today's class. I think we started discussing this before as well. So I'm going to give a small summary of what we have discussed. So Firebase, as we discussed, is a backend as a service platform that provides a service of backend as a service. So it provides a backend as a service. So basically, there are many applications, many services that it provides. So the backend can be used for different applications, such as storage of data and authentication of users, um, and analysis of the data, and so on. So different services can be provided through this backend as a service platform. So Firebase is actually providing us for multiple services. Uh, and there are many services that it provides under this Firebase platform. So we are going to discuss about different services that it provides. So many services are there. So major services or popular services can be uh, the provisioning of Firebase authentication. Firebase authentication that allows users to authenticate using Google, Facebook, or Twitter, or some other, like uh, account that they have, maybe LinkedIn. So Firebase authentication allows us to control the users accessing our databases and platforms. So we want the users to provide their credentials and then access the data. So only the authorized users can access the data. So authentication can be used to enhance the security of the data and privacy of the data. So Another thing is the cloud storage. The cloud storage also is another feature service provided by this Firebase platform. So cloud storage allow us to store large amounts of data. So backed by Google Cloud Storage, we can store large amounts of data up to about petabytes of data. Petabyte of data, like petabyte of data means 1 million of gigabits, 1 million of gigabytes. So 1 million gigabytes of data can be stored using this cloud storage services. So depending on the users, depending on the number of users connected to the database, the cloud storage can be uh, uh, can be scaled depending on the requirement. So the cloud storage services can provide up to petabytes of data space to store petabytes of data. So the space can be provided, and also analysis of the data will be another service. So Firebase analytics. So analysis of the data is also another trending topic in the current world as of now. So machine learning and artificial intelligence, they work on data mostly. So analysis of data comes before that, and I mean during that, and also we have to deal with data related tasks. So for all those data related tasks, we can use Firebase as well as a tool to analyze the data. So real-time database is another service available um, that is provided as a service by Firebase. You can upload data in real time and see the updated data in the database. So upload the data in real time and then upload data and see the update in real time. So such kind of services remain, and these are some of the popular services of Firebase. Firebase authentication, Firebase cloud storage, Firebase analytics, Firebase real-time database, and so on. So in Android Studio, you can see there are other services. There are multiple other services that you can try out as well. So these are some of the applications and some of the services that are provided by the Firebase. So these are most popular services. So these can be integrated with the Android Studio, and we can deploy the app, and we can connect with the Firebase console, and we can interact with the Firebase and provide services to our customers and get the updates back in the application, and also in the cloud platform. We can remotely observe the data in the cloud platform as well. So all those things come with the Firebase, which is a advantage. So the Firebase advantages. So these are some of the major services of Firebase. So there are other services also. Some of the advantages of Firebase will be the simplicity that it provides. Simplicity it provides in terms of handling the data, and also observing the data in a very organized manner. So if you go and see the real-time database, so the real-time database you can observe uh, through the project that you have. So you have to go to the project page and build, go to the build, and in there you have the real-time database. And also you have storage. So real-time database and storage, those two options are there. So whenever you upload some data, the data can be observed in this database. So each and every data that you include into this database can be seen through this method. So this kind of a structure we call as JSON structure. So the JSON structure will be used uh, for storing the data and for showing the data to the users in the Firebase platform. So that is something that is known as a favorable thing. Mainly, the reason being that the user can see like the data very clearly under each of the data type. So the data, the title will be there, and then afterwards, each of the data will be shown under a certain topic. So the this topic, the title, everything. So topic of the data, description, image, those things will be explicitly defined using some keywords. So the key will be used to identify each data uh, separately, and the this is the manner that the data is presented, which is more organized. So sometimes there are other conventional methods of uh, storing the data in a database, some of them being the method of using a tree-like structure to store the data in the database. So if you are using a tree-like structure, that means that under each data included in one branch, there are other branches also generating from one branch. So if that is shown like that, then sometimes the data cannot be properly organized, and sometimes it might lead to like complexity in the data. So in this JSON format, the data can be seen clearly. So for each new data that is uploaded, we can observe a new JSON object um, available under each uh, you know date and time instance. So likewise, we can see the data that is uploaded in each branch. So so this data can also be enabled under the storage, the storage service. So the storage will save all the like heavy resources such as images. So the images can be individually observed, and they can be seen. So the different images you can upload in there. So these images can be accessed uh, through the storage feature, or the uh, storage services. The storage services are also available in Firebase under one service tab. So under build, you can find the storage. So you can access the data you have uploaded into the database, and you can access the storage to access the images separately. In the real-time database in here, although we have the images data related to the images. The images are actually stored in the storage folder. So the image like URL is only given in here. So uh, therefore, in order to access uh, the images will be available in this storage location. So those are some of the services that the Firebase will provide us. So we discussed about the authentication, storage, real-time database. So analytics we did not much talk about. So regarding that, I think that you can also search on your own and you can learn how to use analytics, Firebase analytics, especially for applications related to machine learning and making predictions using the data. So that would be another service that can be useful. So Firebase advantages will be the simplicity of the data handling and simplicity of the storage. Simplicity in the data storage. So the data is stored as JSON objects. And the JSON objects are actually easier to deal with than tree-like structures. So JSON type is another feature will be the security of the data. There are many security features enabled with the Firebase services, although we did not really discuss in extensively about the security features about of Firebase. You can research about the security features in your own time and search about what are the security features enabled there. So this is also something that is crucially focused in the Firebase services. So strong authentications are also um, used to control the users who are accessing the platform, right? So strong authentication techniques are uh, also enabled such that the controller, I mean, user control is user control user control is done. Users are controlled. User access controlled um, based on, so user access is controlled. So different types of data are available in Firebase. So some type of files, some files are private files, some files are public files. So private files are can be accessed only by the authenticated users, right? So can be accessed only by the authenticated users. So only the authenticated users can use the private files. So there are two types of files that can be defined in the system as private and public files. So that will enable the users to control who can access their data. So the data files can be defined as can be defined as either private or public files. So you can use strong authentication methods to prevent unwanted users entering the data, and the user access can be controlled by defining the files as either private or public files. So the private files can only be accessed by the authenticated users, and the users, the the controllers can define the data file according to their according to the requirement. The users can change the access of the files. So the another service is scalability. So scalability is another service or advantage of Firebase. So scalability um, is the fact that the data storage can be scaled according to the user needs. The data storage can be increased or um can be reduced based on the requirement, can be scaled or uh, yeah, scaled based on the requirement, user specific requirements. So as I said before, the cloud storage in the Firebase platform can handle up to petabytes of data. So about 1 million gigabits of data you can store in the Google Cloud Storage, and that feature will enable you to connect as many customers as possible to your application. So you can enable many users to access your application and upload their data without any disruption in the service. So that is another advantage of using Google Cloud Storage and these Firebase services. So those are some of the advantages that are available with the Firebase. Another thing is the real-time updates. The real-time updates are available. So once we create some data and upload the data, then that data is automatically updated in real time in the database. The users can see the changes in real time. The users can observe uh, any changes made to the data, can observe any changes made to the data in real time. So there's no delay with there's not much of a delay when we are using this service. So the real-time updates can be seen by the users uh, without much delay. So those are the things that I can discuss as main services of Firebase. So the main advantages of Firebase. So you can add a lot of advantages of Firebase apart from this. So these are mainly like the main or kind of specific advantages of Firebase that I discussed. So you can also add more advantages into this list. So we talked about how different services that are provided by the Firebase. So one of the services is having this Firebase um, real-time database. So real-time database and also we have this Firestore service. So I think I will add it in here. We have Firestore. Firestore is another method of storing the data. So it is also basically a database, and this database is also used to store the data. Some differences are there between the Firestore and the real-time database. So the way of representing data is the difference between the real-time database and the Firebase, Firestore. So the Firestore has a definite method of uh, showing the data, and real-time database have another structure of showing the data. So in Firestore, actually, we have something called collections of data, and uh, so the structure of data storage is based on that method. So we have this users and collection. So we have something called users and collections in the Firestore system. So that is also something worthwhile knowing. So the Firestore is based on it's actually a Firestore is a database that it is built on no SQL, no SQL language. So no SQL language is used to uh, store the data and manage the data in the database. So NoSQL based cloud database is basically underneath the Firestore, and it is used to store the data and sync the data. So all the databases in the Firebase are basically NoSQL databases. So Firestore is also, uh, I mean, database based on the cloud NoSQL language. So um, Firebase provides NoSQL based databases. So we will discuss about this NoSQL and SQL databases in a little while. So in here, Firestore is also a database, and the difference between the real-time database and the Firestore database is that in this Firestore database, you have uh, a distinct way of organizing the data. So the data is made up of stored uh, data is stored in terms of documents and collections. So data is made up of documents and collections. So data are kind of represented using documents and collections. Right. So um, in here, the documents means the JSON objects, right? JSON objects that gives um, the JSON objects that we just saw earlier. So documents means the JSON objects used to represent the data and its different uh, features and its different features. Like in the JSON object data that we saw in here, we have different data features available in this JSON object. So for different, for one data upload, you can show all the different types of data included in the JSON. So then collections are groups of documents. Collections are groups of documents. So, so groups of documents are known as collections. So these two these two collections and documents are used to represent data in the Firestore database system. So I think I will also explain more about this if I have the time, but if possible, you can try to research on these features of Firestore, and then this try to find about this what these documents collections mean. I also hope to give you a written assignment to you. So in that written assignment, I think I will provide you some questions that you will be able to answer related to these, ideas, theory content. So after that, so the data will be uploaded to the databases, and the data will be updated in real time in the databases. So that is mainly those are the things that I can, I mean, present you regarding the Firebase and the services related to Firebase. So after that, now we are going to discuss about another thing about uh, the fragments. So this is something that uh, I needed to cover. So something that we need to know regarding uh, application development. So this is also something that we didn't discuss so far, but fragments are also uh, some like a popular term that comes with application development. And when you are developing an application, so you need to develop applications with fragments. So in such cases, knowing what fragments are is essential, and therefore we will discuss that in a short summary as well. So this fragment is something that is known as a reusable portion of a UI that lives inside an activity. So okay, so reusable portion of UI that it lives inside of an activity. So what do we mean by this? Uh, I will try to show an image and explain using that image. So about fragments. So we have applications that have fragments in them. So when we develop applications, we sometimes have this, I think, so we can so this is about fragments. So fragments are used to divide the user interface into different discrete sections, and then display different activities in those sections. So it is like having child activities inside one activity, right? So this is like having small activities inside one activity, and those small activities what we call as fragments. So once we like initiate a fragment, some activity is happening, and but it is controlled uh, by the main activity. So only if the main activity calls fragment, that fragment will be implemented or initiated. So these the fragments are basically these small portions that we have inside one main activity. Okay, so the fragments can be like this blue one. This blue box can be one fragment, and there's this green box. It is also another fragment that is available. So both these can be living in the same activity. Sometimes these fragments can lose its view. I mean, it can be disappeared. I mean, we can make it disappear, and we can only make one of the fragments visible to the user. So I think that you know that when we are using applications, we can uh, click on some certain sections of the screen, and we can enable only that part of the screen. So likewise, these fragments are like that, and the fragments uh, can be enabled and disabled at at the same time, in the same in the one common screen. So different, I mean, multiple fragments can be included in one activity. So this blue one can be one fragment. We can call this as fragment A, and the green one we can call as fragment B. So there could be, some different tasks allocated for each fragment. So the fragment A can be used to display some information related to a certain user, right? It can be used to give some detailed information regarding a certain user. And the green one, the fragment B, can be used to give the summary of all the users. So the fragments can be allocated different tasks. So each fragment is doing their own tasks inside one activity. And also this activity, I mean this main activity that holds this fragment, is actually able to control the functions of the fragments. Okay, so the functions of the fragments can be controlled by the main activity that is inside here, right? So which is controlling both these fragments. Okay, the activity which is behind these fragments can control these fragments as it needs. So sometimes the fragments cannot be like the main person who's controlling the activity. Fragment is like a sub uh, person, or a working sub working person underneath the boss, which is the activity. Activity is the boss, and fragment is the kind of worker. So the activity has the ability to call the fragments whenever it needs. So until it is called, the fragment is kind of not functioning. So fragment is uh, disabled, or it is working in the back end, without being visible to the users. So there are some differences. Therefore, in the uh, in the there are some differences in the things that the activity can do and the fragment can do. So there are methods that are defined in the activity, right? So when we are developing a certain application, we are defining some methods to the app to the application, right? So we are defining some different functions inside the activity. So these functions uh, that we are defining for activity will not be affecting the fragment, right? Unless we call the fragment will not get affected by the activities called, I mean, by the operations inside the activity. So for example, if we call some functions inside activity, those functions will only be active and will be valid for the activity file only. This will not affect the fragment. Fragment will be defined separately in a separate file, and the fragment has to be accessed using intents. Using intents, fragment has to be accessed. So the activity files will have on create methods, on create functions and those things, whereas fragments will have on activity created functions. So different functions are, defined for the fragment when you consider activity and fragment. So those are some of the differences that are there with the fragment and the activity. Also, the activity life cycle of the fragment is also a little bit different than the activity life cycle. So in the activity life cycle, we discussed there are some different functions that are followed, and for the fragment life cycle, there's a different life cycle for the fragment. Um, so the life cycle that is defined for the fragment follows different sequence. So this figure shows the activity life cycle of a fragment. So this um life cycle follows these methods one by one when the activity of this fragment is initiated. Okay, so I mean, if the once the fragment is initiated, these uh, stages are activated on attach, on create, likewise. So these functions are different from the activity life cycle. So that is also one of the differences between activity life cycle and the fragment life cycle. So between activity and fragment, so that is also one of the changes that you can observe. So this is actually something that is also like important to know, but activity life cycle is something that is mainly studied. So from that we can infer the idea of this as well. So uh, in here also, just like the activity life cycle, some several methods are similar as well. So similar methods that are used in the activity life cycle are also used in this fragment life cycle as well. However, it's not needed to study this fragment life cycle. I mean, you don't need to remember each and every step in here, but but you need to know that there's a difference between the life cycles and the way they are called uh, in the activity life cycle. So in the life cycle, so in the life cycle, the way they are called and when they are called is different in the fragment life cycle. So the fragment life cycle is like this. So if you prefer, you can study it. Uh, the commands that are defined in here are little bit different from the activity life cycle commands. So there's something called on activity created. So there's this command called on activity created is also available, and that means that this will this stage will be activated only if the activity that is behind the fragment is created. So that means that fragment is getting implemented only once the activity has been initiated. So on activity created gives us the idea that if you have a activity in the back, the activity in the back must be initiated, and once it is initiated only this on activity created function will be activated, right? On activity created function, this function will be initialized